Hey, I'm Kalila McCoy, and this is the show where every story has something to teach us. This is Where We Rise. Today, we are hearing from Lynn B. Stone, the author of Til Death Do Us Part, a practical guide to preparing for the inevitable. She shares how the loss of her spouse led her to a deep passion for helping others get their affairs in order so their loved ones aren't left floundering during an already painful time. Let's jump in. Hi, Lynn. How are you today?
I'm great, Kalila. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show today.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for inviting me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you. So, Lynn, you're on here to talk about your book and kind of just your life. You wrote the book, Til Death Do Us Part, and I got a copy on Amazon. I was so excited. I was like, oh, I feel like a real podcaster. I have to get her book and read through it. Of course, it came late, so that's what I've been doing earlier today, was going through it. But it was really exciting to read through it, and even more exciting to know, like, I get a chance to sit down and talk to the author. And the really cool part about your book is a lot of times you go to, like, the bookstore, get, like, a self-help book and things like that. And the people are very clinical because that's what they've studied in school and, you know, or they've heard it from other people and now they're sharing someone else's story. But this is based on you, based on what you've experienced in your life. And I will say it's kind of interesting because I have a 5-year-old, and so my husband and I have started thinking about, you know, just random things like we are not prepared for if one of us were to pass. And so it's kind of interesting meeting you after having that conversation. I was like, oh, I guess this is like a little nudge. Like, I do need to get my stuff together. So I'm excited to hear about your experience, what led you to write this book, and then just some tips and I don't know if the word tricks is correct, but what we can learn from you about planning death.
Yeah, it's such a morbid topic. Then a lot of people don't want to talk about it because it means that they have to face their own mortality, and so it's a tough topic for a lot of people to even think about, let alone talk about and really plan for. So I felt like this was something that was my way to give back to people, to help them so that they could be prepared, because we were not prepared at all. And so that's really why I wrote the book, was because I wanted to help other people just kind of navigate, you know, what to think about, what to look at, what kind of questions to ask their spouses, you know, what kind of plans they need to make. And I mean, honestly, it's not all inclusive, but it's a pretty good start. And you know, as you're going through it, and I'm sure as you thumb through it, you'd be like, oh yeah, I should probably think about, well, what about this? She didn't talk about this, but we could probably talk about that too, because, you know, everyone has their own thing, you know, like their own situation. So I'm really hopeful that people will gravitate towards it and want to use it and really kind of get their affairs in order, because, you know, we don't know the day or the hour when it will be our time to go. And, you know, it could be 90 years, it could be next year, it could be tomorrow. And I mean, that's just really the stark reality of what's going on with it. So that's the why.
Yeah. And now you said we weren't ready for it. So explain, what is your experience?
Yeah, so my husband and I got married in 2006, and he was about 11 years older than me. So I joke that he kind of lived a couple lives before he and I got together. Yeah. And so he had a couple kids to previous relationships. I should say a couple. He actually had 3. And then after we got married, then we had a daughter together. And so, you know, we were kind of living the dream. We lived in Pennsylvania. We moved to Ohio. We moved back to Pennsylvania. We worked in Washington, D.C. And then in 2013, we moved down here to Georgia. And so that was kind of how life was. We just kind of lived life. We didn't think about the future. Every great once in a while. So my husband was in the Army. He was in the Army. He was active duty. He was in during the Gulf War, during Desert Storm back in the early 90s. Okay. Yeah. So he did some really very interesting things while he was in. And so I know that they, you know, like they made them do wills and they made them do beneficiaries and all that stuff. But beyond that, there really wasn't much planning or talking about anything. And really the only time it would come up is after, like, if he got triggered about something or he heard a song that he liked, and he'd be like, oh, when I die, I want you to play this at my funeral. Like, just very offhanded, kind of just sidebar conversation, like, just really just random comments that I just kind of pieced them all together. And so that's kind of how it was. We both worked for the government, so we had retirement set up through that. We had life insurance through that, but that was it. We didn't have a will. We didn't have a trust. We didn't have extra insurance policies. We didn't have anything. We didn't have any plans, nothing.
Right.
So in 2015, my husband passed away very unexpectedly. He didn't have anything really. He had a bunch of stuff going on, but that really not any one of them in particular was life-threatening.
Okay.
Probably about 4 months before that, he had a knee replacement surgery, but he was on a cocktail of different medications, dealing with a couple different things: high blood pressure, pain medication, low testosterone. So like all these things that people in their 40s are dealing with, right? He was dealing with them, and so it was just the night before he died, or I don't know. I don't know how to relate to this. I don't know when he died, but I know that it was like the day before. It was a beautiful day. He got to talk to his kids. We had great interaction. We went to the store to I think it was Home Depot or Lowe's or one of those, and got a flat of vegetables so that we could go plant something in the garden. And we had great interaction with the kids. I mean, it was just a really, really good day. Beautiful, sunny, blue skies, puffy white clouds. I mean, it was just picturesque. And the next day he was gone.
Wow.
And he died in bed beside me. I didn't know, there was no struggle. Like, it wasn't like he was having a heart attack or anything.
Right.
Like how they kind of depicted in the videos or in TV. It was nothing like that. The dog actually woke me up. I just assumed she had to go to the bathroom. And I had to go, so I got up and I went to the bathroom and I came back down, laid back down, and kind of rolled over and kind of did one, kind of felt beside me, kind of stretched my arm over to see if I could feel him, and I felt his skin. I'm like, oh, you're cold. So I pulled the blanket up, thinking that he was just cold.
Right.
And I rolled back over, and I'm just kind of laying there, and I didn't hear him. And if you have your spouse, you sleep beside him, you can even if it's very faint, you can hear the breathing. And so I didn't hear anything, and I rolled back over and kind of looked at him, and kind of did my thing. And anyway, long story short, I realized that he was not with us anymore. Called 911, did CPR. They did the AED, they hooked him up. There was nothing there, so they didn't even try to shock him. And that was it. So, fast forward, or not fast forward to that, but really, at the time, it was him and I, our daughter, and his son, from one of his previous marriages. He was 13, my daughter was 7. And our lives just completely were turned upside down. And so, that, it was traumatizing, and, it was very sad. And when you might hear about widow fog, or I might have even made reference to fog, widow's fog, or grieving during the book, because it's very real. And it actually just there's scientific information out there that tells you how much of an impact it can have on you as a person whenever you're
Tell
grieving.
us a little bit more. What do you mean by widow fog?
Whenever you go through, so whenever your spouse passes away, you're just you're numb, you are not thinking straight, you're kind of like a zombie, I think is probably the best way to describe it. You're there, but you're kind of not really there. Everything's just kind of very surreally happening around you, because you're just not just really
kind of floating through.
Yeah. Your mind's not really in it. You're not really thinking straight. It's just a very difficult time, and you have to make big decisions. And you're, especially if you don't have any plan, you're making all the decisions, and you're not thinking right. You are directly impacted. It's just something that's such an impactful situation that occurs to you that you don't know what to do. You'd make the best decisions you can in the moment, but are they the best? Are they the most logical? Are they, who knows? Right. And I mean, honestly, it's usually about a year. It takes about a year to come out of the fog, is what we say, because like everything's just kind of happening around you. Like you kind of see those videos or things where like the person's standing still and everything else is like just buzzing around them.
Yeah.
That's what it's like. Like life is just happening. Life is going on around you and you feel like you're frozen. Like you're just
You're still trying to process that moment of loss.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And it's so much more than that. You're realizing your life and how different it is and how much people don't understand about that loss. Like they expect you just to get over it. Like it's no big deal. And, they don't understand that, for our home, there were 4 of us and in a week it went from 4 to 2 because not only did we lose my husband, but we also, my stepson had to go back to live with his mom. Mm-hmm. And we didn't know that
changes. Yeah.
It was huge. It was huge for all of us. And, there is a part of the book where I talk about blended families and the importance of having a plan in place if something should happen, because we didn't.
Yeah.
And his mom refused to really talk about it with me. And so he went away for spring break like we had planned on, and he just never came back. And so he was plucked out of his life here and just kind of dropped in life there and expected to thrive.
Right.
And so it was just a very, very difficult time for all of us. And I mean, truly, it takes about a year to get through that the year of first is what we call it, because you go through the first holidays without them, the first birthday, the first anniversary of the wedding, or whatever you get together, whatever anniversary, and then their first death anniversary. And you're reliving the trauma of what happened. So for some people, for us, it was unexpected. He was here one day, gone the next. For others, like those that are going through cancer treatments or whatever, it's kind of prolonged. And sometimes people have time to do the grieving while the person's still alive. But you're still in a fog. You're still trying to figure out life after your person's gone. And it's a very difficult time for a lot of people. So,
how were you finding comfort during this time?
Interestingly, my mom flew down. As soon as they wheeled my husband out on the gurney, I had the kids. We went into a bedroom until the coroner could get the body out of the house. And the first call I made was to my stepson's mom, just letting her know what had happened.
Right.
And then I called my mom. And then I called my oldest stepson, who had just become a dad himself. His son was born 2 days prior. And then I called my sister-in-law to talk to my brother-in-law, because I knew she couldn't handle the news, but he could. He could kind of sort it. Yeah. So to let her know, and then to let my mother and father-in-law know. So my mom was there. I mean, she was there in 12 hours. I mean, she was there that evening. Good. And she was with us for probably about 2 weeks or so. Mm-hmm. So she was probably my initial comfort. And then I had wound up getting myself into counseling, into therapy. I got my daughter into counseling and therapy. So that was the immediate fix. The immediate comfort was just having that person to talk through. And then, it's interesting. You get ostracized as a widow.
Really?
Yeah, you wouldn't think so, but you do, because if you have, and it happens a lot. So they talk about the circle. You have your immediate circle. And then you have the outer layers, like the outer ring. So you have your immediate circle, like your family, and then your next ring is your close friends and associates. Okay. And then it just keeps going out. But when you lose somebody, you lose your circles. You lose at least half of your circles, because it's family that's steps away. You lose your friends. I mean, sometimes you have some good friends that are your friends and they stick by you.
Your couple friends you're talking about.
Well, the friends that are married couples, those tend to always go away. They all, I guess, and a lot of times it's because they, not that it's true, but now you're a single woman or a single man, and you might be going after their spouse. And not that that's true. It's not, that doesn't always happen that way.
A fear or
absolutely. Or they don't want to be uncomfortable asking you to do something with them whenever it's a couple event, so they just don't invite you. So it just, it's it's a really weird thing. So
thinking about that, what would you have what would you have preferred people do, or how would you have preferred people responded?
It would have been really nice to get the offers, to get the invitations. And a lot of it's also timing, if, for the first month or two, you were completely, if you're getting out of bed, you're doing good.
Right.
You're just
Definitely.
not wanting to interact with people. You're just so, you're so thick in your own situation, in your own head of everything that's going on. You don't care about that. But by the third or fourth month, you're okay, you're kind of starting to come up out of water. You're okay, maybe I want to go do something. I need to get out of the house. I want to, and someone, saying, hey, let's go get some coffee. Hey, you know what? You haven't been out of the house. How about we take the kids? We'll babysit the kids so you can go, go get something to eat, go do something for yourself, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't happen. And so, it can, and sometimes it does, but I know in my personal experience, that didn't happen. It was me saying, hey, do you mind if she comes over and hangs out with your kids, and I have a couple of things I need to go take care of? And yeah, sure, that's fine, not a problem. But I felt like it was, I was imposing on someone, and it's much different if someone says, hey, let me take the kid. I'll babysit them for a few hours so you can go run errands or just go relax or go go get a massage, go do something.
Right.
That makes a huge difference. Or, my husband was the one that mowed the yard. So if someone would have said, hey, I see that the grass is high, I'm just going to go over and mow it.
Yeah.
And it's one thing, people are like, well, I don't want to impose. I don't want, and, if for us, so, my husband passed and he did a lot of the stuff that was outside. If someone had said, hey, I know he's gone, I'm just going to mow your grass for you, I'd be like, thank you so much, because that's one less thing I have to worry about. Mm-hmm. Or, I have to figure out how to do it, or I have to come out of pocket to pay someone to do it. So if someone would have offered, hey, let me just come cut your grass for you, I'll trim, I'll do all that stuff, that would have been a godsend.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, I think just people are so afraid of offending someone, and it's just just take the time and just say, hey, I'm going to the store. Do you need milk? Do you need eggs? What do you need? Let me just grab it. I'll grab it for you. Because if people say, well, if you need anything, let me know. And we say that because it's so well intentioned, right? If you need something, let me know. But as a widow, I don't know what I need.
Right.
I don't know, if I think of it, I don't want to impose on you to do something for me, so I just won't ask. Mm-hmm. But if you're proactive, say, hey, I'm going to the store, I'm going to grab you some milk, I'm going to grab you some eggs, some bread, what else do you need?
Then you can be more specific and think.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So just being more deliberate and intentional about the conversations that you have with widowed people, I think that makes a huge difference, because it's just, people don't understand. They put their own timelines on widows. They're like, oh, or they say things, and again, people that haven't been through it don't necessarily know the impact of what they're saying and how it's interpreted. So, something that was said to me, because I was 32 when my husband died.
Okay. And
he was 43, so about 11 years.
Right.
You're young. You'll find somebody else.
Oh no.
And it's I understand the intent and I understand the sentiment. However, that is
right.
Don't tell me that. That's not what I want to hear. I want to hear that my husband's coming back and this was all a bad dream, and this is all make believe. And the other one that they say is he's in a better place now. And it's again, well intentioned, but what are you telling me? Are you saying that he wasn't in a good place with me? It's your mind just starts spinning. Mm-hmm. And so, it's just a difficult situation no matter what. And people feel like they're going to get a catch-22 either way. They're going to say it, or they're going to, they're either going to be received well or not. So people, they say, I just won't say anything. I don't want to interact. I don't want to be offensive. And and that in itself is offensive. So it's kind of a catch-22 no matter what you do, but it's very difficult.
You mentioned, and then it's also in your book, that you joined some widow groups.
I did.
So was that probably like the biggest support for you as far as understanding?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, so the biggest group that I joined was on Facebook, like that. There were a couple of different Facebook pages, and really you wouldn't even know they existed until you start looking for them, because you're trying to find community. You're trying to find people that know what you're going through. Especially for me as a young widow, it was very difficult. Because everyone thinks that a widowed person is old.
Usually older, right?
Yeah. And that was not the case. Like, right. I'm 32. Like, my friends are, having kids and going to soccer games, and like they don't have to worry about their dead husbands and like their kid that doesn't have a father now. So that was definitely a huge help. Something else that I did was there was a local widow group that I wound up joining. And they were all much older than me, probably old enough to be my grandparents. But you know what? Like, I needed community. I wanted that community, and I wanted that interaction and that acceptance of, hey, I might not be able to directly relate to you because of our age, but we've gone through we've had the same type of experience. We've felt the same type of pain. We're grieving. We're on this journey together. So between the two, that was kind of my saving grace. That, and with my therapy and counseling, those three things were probably the most beneficial things that I could have done for myself, for sure.
And then how long after the tragedy did you end up deciding, I'm going to start to kind of document the things that I had to go through?
It was probably 2 or 3 years later, when I really decided that I wanted to give something back. I wanted to do something. I really couldn't figure out what it was that I wanted to do. And then I just started writing things down. Like, what do people need to know? What are things that would have helped me? And so I just started writing. And then I walk away from it, and I'd come back to it, and I'd add a little bit more, and I'd kind of structure it a little bit. And so it probably was over the course of probably about 7 or 8 years that I was just kind of off and on, like take away, walk away for 6 months and come back and pick it up. So it wasn't an overnight thing. It was definitely an evolution. But what finally got me to do it was in 2024. Well, I'll backtrack to 2023. So in 2023, I had just gotten out of a relationship. So after my husband died, I was in probably three relationships, and one that was pretty quick afterwards, and then one that was about 5 years, and then one that was almost 2. So after that last one, I'm like, I need to figure out what I want, because these guys just aren't hitting it. And I get out into the dating scene, and I start meeting people based on my very intentional search. And I find a guy locally, and we hit it off great. And things happen as things happen. And then in 2024, in January, I find out that I'm pregnant. And at 41, yeah, definitely was not in the
Weren't
plan.
Planning that.
No, not at all. But it's okay. I wound up giving birth to our son in June.
Oh, so congratulations!
Yeah, so in June of 2024, and then I wound up taking paid parental leave. So that was about 3 months of paid leave with the government. And so it was during that time, my mom had come again. She was there for about a month, helping me with the baby. And during that time, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to finish this book. I just want to just be done with it. I want to finish it. And so I did. I worked with a company, and I got, I worked with a ghostwriter. We got it finalized. We got it edited, all the things. And I published it on January 1st, 2025.
Wow.
And yeah, so I was like,
so during taking care of an infant too. Finalizing the book.
Yeah, we'll just add it all together. And so it was good though. Because I knew what I was looking for. I knew what I wanted to put out there. It was just wrapping it all up and because I'd already done the hard work. It was just putting the last details on it and just really finalizing it. So that's what it was.
You said before, like, a lot of the stuff needed for funerals and stuff you guys hadn't planned out and figured out. So during the process of planning for your husband's funeral, was it a nightmare almost for you because you didn't have those things? Is that kind of what led to you thinking about the book?
It was, so I wouldn't classify it as a nightmare, but it was difficult because we lived in Georgia. His family lived in north central Florida, and so it was, and his parents were both alive at the time, and so it's like, okay, what's the best thing for everyone? Because we could have very easily buried him here where we are so that he was close to us.
Yeah.
But then his parents were like, well, we would like him to be close to us down here. We could tend the grave. And my mother-in-law, I mean, they were very loving, but they had said, you might move on and decide that you want to go somewhere else. And, we just want to be able to take care of the grave and all that. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, you know what? And that's perfectly logical. That makes sense. I think the big sticking point for us was probably what he was going to wear in the casket.
Okay.
Because
you had one idea and they had a different idea of like the outfit. Okay.
Yeah, because my father-in-law wanted him to be in a suit and tie because that's kind of traditional. Mm-hmm. And that just wasn't him. Now, my husband looked fantastic in a suit and tie, but that wasn't his personality. He was a jeans, t-shirt, long shirt, ball cap, like that was his style. And so we talked about it, and ultimately that's the way that we went, was the more casual look, because that's who he was. But, I
like that, though, but because even considering, like, what they would wear, right, in that moment, thinking about, like you said, more traditional, or, like, do I want this last moment of seeing you to reflect who you are, how I know you as a person? Like, I would not have thought about that. I would, in my mind, I'm just like, oh, they just go grab a suit or something out of the closet.
Yeah. And some people would do that. And, that's why it's just, again, that's why I wrote the book. Because, it's just so important to kind of think through these things that you just typically wouldn't think through. And really the only way you would even know that was even something that you should think about is if you've had to get a parent or a grandparent ready. Like, you've had to do that, go through that exercise already. But in this case, that's what we decided. And then, the flowers, there's just so much, flowers and a service and a church and a pastor. And, so my husband, like I said, was military. So you had to get a hold of the color guard and, have them come and do a thing. And so it was just, there was just so much planning that had to be done, stuff that should have and could have been done ahead of time that I had to make decisions in 3 days. A 3-day time frame, had to make all these decisions.
While you're still in your fog, processing what just happened. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it was, thankfully, family was there and everyone's weighing in and, giving their input and, it all worked out. He wound up in the family plot in the cemetery. Mm-hmm. We had to pick out the casket, had to pick out the liner, had to pick out just stuff that you don't even think, you just don't think about. What he's going to wear, what color of flowers are we going to do, what music should we play at the service, or,
When you were going through this, if you don't mind me asking, what were the things that you felt were important, and other things you're like, I don't even care, let's just do what you have to do. I'm grieving right now.
So I think probably the most important thing for me was what I felt was important for him, or would have been important to him. So what he wore, making sure that there was military representation, so making sure the color guard was there. And honestly, after that, there were a couple songs that I knew that he loved, but they weren't really church songs. So I'm like, you know what? I'll leave that up to my, my in-laws. They can figure that out. They can, because it was their church. So I put a lot of my focus and attention on getting, a memorial, slideshow going. Okay. So it was pictures, pulling all the pictures together. The obituary, getting the obituary right is always a hard one. Making sure that the songs that he wanted, that he always talked about wanting and loving, associated with pictures. I got that whole slideshow done. That was kind of what I put my energy into, because that was my way to be able to just kind of reflect who he was and his life. And that was important to me, was being able to show people the man that he was. And so, everything else was just process.
Yeah.
Like what songs they play and what the preacher said, and what the little pamphlet looked like that they hand out. So, like just gathering the pictures and making sure that I had the right pictures out there. But everything else was.
And you said you did that in 3 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
yeah,
a
all
lot.
the planning. Yeah, all the planning was really quick. I mean, when you go to the funeral home, because let's see, he died on a Sunday. We went to the funeral home on, I think it was Tuesday. It would have had to have been Tuesday. And on that day, we had to pick out the casket. We had to pick out, we had to talk about what he was going to wear. We had to fill out all the paperwork for the death certificate, fill out the paperwork for the military stuff to be able to get his plaque on for his gravesite, to get the color guard arranged, and to write the obituary. So that was 7 things that we had to do in that day. Oh, and I think we ordered flowers, so that's 8. Wow. And it's just the flowers, that's pretty. It's not for me. That's just what I just rather just delegate. It just as long as it looks nice, I don't really care. They're going to stay here. So
yeah,
they stay they go on the gravesite after they're done. So
right.
But yeah, it's just that's again the importance of planning and having those conversations and I try to bring out those things in the book. I talk about the funeral planning and talk about what you're going to wear. Do you want to be buried or cremated? Do you where do you, if you want to be buried, where do you want to be buried? These things that are just decisions that I had to make because I didn't know what he wanted.
Well, then even after that, right after the funeral, it's not over, because you talk about even getting money from the bank or property and things like that, and going to probate and all that. How was that process for you?
So he didn't have a will, so we didn't have to do probate. And it honestly depends on the family, or I'm sorry, the family, but it also depends on the state that you live in. Okay. So because we were married, I got everything. His estate, everything in the estate went to me. So I didn't have to probate anything. But, if there is a will, then yeah, you have to go through the probate process and you have to do that. And it's expensive. My goodness. Probate is expensive, and it's a lot of time that you have to wait for stuff to happen and for all the notices to go out and whatever. So we didn't have to deal with that. It was notifying getting all the paperwork finalized for the life insurances and the beneficiaries for retirements and payouts and that, and 401ks and that kind of stuff, really outlining that stuff, and making sure that it was going to the right accounts. And I want to sit and stress the importance of making sure that your beneficiaries are updated, especially if people are coming out of former marriages, they get divorced and they get into a new marriage, but they don't update their beneficiaries. So if something happens to them, then it all goes to the ex. That's not the intent, but yeah, super messy. So, but fortunately, didn't have to deal with that. But just trying. In a way, I was fortunate because I was already on. We had already done our beneficiary forms. I was already on the bank accounts. I was already on the bills. I was, I was already involved in that stuff. But I recognized when I was writing my book that I was fortunate. And that there are a lot of people that don't have that same knowledge about, what's happening in their relationship as far as who the bills that are being paid and being on the bank accounts and, what monies are coming in from what places. Or how to access those monies. So, it was definitely, again, you're in the fog. You're trying to process these things. You're trying to keep life somewhat normal as the world, life continues, whether you're paying attention or not.
True.
And trying to maintain some level of normalcy for the kids and for family and for yourself, and really kind of coming into your new normal. What is, who am I? Because that was something else that, and I didn't really talk about that in the book, but it is you get into this identity, you kind of have an identity crisis because, for so long you've been a wife.
Right.
And now you're not. I mean, you know, that your husband's gone. So like, what are you? You know, you fulfilled
It sounds
your
like you
vows.
guys spent a lot of time together. Like you guys did all these different things together, built this life together.
Exactly. And then just like that, they're gone. And yeah, so it was very difficult to manage that and really try to figure out who I was. And, you know, people don't have a lot of tolerance for grieving. You know, they don't know how to deal with it, so they avoid it. You know, they don't want to see you crying. They don't want to say something that's going to trigger you to start crying, so they just avoid it.
Right.
And, you know, there's kind of you might see it. I think it just depends on who you're friends with, but sometimes there's a little bit of a campaign of like, say their name. You know, say their, don't be afraid to say their name. Like say, you know, because you're not going to stir up a bad memory for me by saying their name. You know what I mean? If you say their name, that means that you remembered them and that you recognize that they were a part of your life just as they were a part of my life. And I told people, like, you're not going to upset me if you remember him. I remember him all the time. So, like, if you remember him, then that
I was going to ask you, can you tell us what his name is? Yeah,
his name is Brian. And so he went by a couple different names, but, you know, Brian, and went by Stone, went by, you know, whatever other variation of that you could come up with.
Right.
But it was, he was a good guy. He was a really good guy. He was loved by everyone that he worked with and was interacting with. It's just, it was a tough loss. We worked together, so that made it really hard because not only did I have home where he was gone, then I also had work where he was gone. Wow. So I had to clean out his office, and that was really hard. And then, you know, so like there's still, like I still have stuff, and that was, you know, 10 years ago. I still have stuff that was from his office.
Was like cleaning out his office and being at home, was that part of like kind of the therapy of kind of moving on and remembering him, or was that harder?
It's both, if that makes sense. Like like it is a little therapeutic because you are collecting his things. It's kind of like that last honor type thing. Like you're gathering his things and you're taking them home, but you're grieving while you're doing it. And it was so fresh, you know, like we were like literally 2 weeks after he passed, and I'm cleaning out his office and trying to move his stuff. And I think it's difficult because, you know, and it's not just government, it's anywhere that, you know, you get this person out, this person dies, and then you clean out their space, and then there's a new person sitting in there.
And they don't even know who he was.
Exactly. Yeah. They don't know him. They know nothing about him. And like that's the hard part, I think, of especially when you work with somebody, like when you work with your spouse, and they die, like that's a very difficult thing that you're working through is, you know, like you have shared contacts, and like it's just weird. I think for me, you know, I've continued working in that space. I've changed a little bit, like the group that I've been working with. So, but I think about it actually pretty often about how there's a very firm line in the sand of like the before and the after.
Okay.
Like, and it's like the people who knew him and the people who didn't know him. Like, and like the people, you know what I mean? Like the people who know me, and like just the distinction in the people, and like, you know, and I talk about them, and I've got pictures of them, so they've seen him, but they don't know him. Like they don't know him like how I know him. So it was just like it's just talking a lot about my husband, and so it's just interesting, and it's just such a weird dynamic whenever you are in that workspace and then you're not. But I actually go by the same building that we used to work in, and I always look up into because he had an office with a window. So I, you know, when I walk by, I see that, and I'm like, oh,
look up at the window.
Yeah. So yeah, like just those little memories, and you just keep on walking because you don't want to start crying.
Right.
You know, and that's the thing. You know, they say like where once was great love is great grief, and you know, like that. You know, like I said, it's 10 years, and I mean, most days I'm good, but sometimes, you know, it's like a little memory will slip down your cheek because you just remember. So yeah.
One thing that you mentioned in your book was that keeping those memories alive, taking the pictures. You talked about like little videos and messages. Do you have any of those that you have, Brian, that you can pull up sometimes?
They weren't, it's funny because technology has been a blessing and a curse. Mm-hmm. So today is so much easier to, take pictures, take recordings, because we have our phone in our pocket, right? We can whip it out, we can record something or whatever. So what's difficult is, whenever he and I were married, like through our marriage, cell phones were evolving.
Right.
So I have a couple videos of him being silly, mm-hmm. and but that's about it. I have a bunch of pictures. I have a bunch of pictures I can look at, but it's like I don't have a lot of audio. Yeah. And so like that's why, especially in that part of the book, I encourage that interaction. I encourage the voices. Like, I encourage, like, the videos and all that stuff, because truly, when your person goes, that's what you have left. You've got pictures and you've got videos. I mean, some people will save voicemails. Mm-hmm. Like, they'll save just, like, random voicemail messages or text message strings, just because that's all you have left of them.
Yeah. So. You said, too, like, it was heartbreaking to read. You said that we hear from widows and children that they forget what they look like or sound like. And I know you said your daughter was 7, right? Yeah. When you passed. Has she had to go through any of that?
A little bit.
Okay.
So one of the things that, and I tell you, her teacher, I give her all the credit for this, but whenever her dad died, her teacher had given her what they called a dad box. And it's like just a hat box, but she was able to put all of her memories and stuff in there of her daddy. So like there's like a stuffed animal, there's flowers from the funeral. I had burnt a CD of mm-hmm. the presentation that I put up, like that slide deck, so all the kids have a copy of that if they want to play it. Now mm-hmm. technology is fantastic until you as long as you have a drive that you can play anymore, right? Yeah, I should have thought about that a little bit more, but
hey, we didn't know that was going to happen. Who would have thought?
Yeah, exactly. But so she does, and anytime I come across a video, like we took Facebook was just starting to come out, so they would have a couple videos, and every time it comes up, I'll tag her in it and be like, "Hey, mm-hmm. check out your, so you can take a look at your silly dad,
Yeah.
So she does have she is able to connect to that, so she hasn't really struggled too much with that part, like of forgetting. Mm-hmm. I think for her, and I think this is probably true for any child that has lost their parent, is that they think about what they're missing.
Right.
Like, so my daughter's a senior this year. Like, she's, dad's not there for the last, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the last first day of school, the opportunity to walk across the football field because the band got done, So
right.
What we've had to have surrogates. So her brother, the younger of the two, had come, and he walked with me across the field with her for senior night. Yeah. So, but Dad won't be there for graduation. Dad won't be mm-hmm. there for, whatever. So it's like those types of things, I think, are what's hitting her now. And
right.
like, I think honestly, it's so unfair. It's so unfair for the kids, because they have to process their grief continually mm-hmm. as they understand it. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
So she was 7 when he died. So what she understood about her dad dying evolved as she got older, and she had to mm-hmm. continue to process it and figure it out and understand it. And I think that's so hard as a parent to really watch your child go through that iteration mm-hmm. of evolving, the evolution of grief. But she seems okay. I mean, like most of us, like you have good days, you have bad days, and
right.
There are certain days like Dad's birthday or like holidays or whatever that it's a little harder. So on those days, we try to do special things. Like, for his birthday, we'll go to his favorite restaurant and we'll order the food that he would usually order. Mm-hmm. Or we'll go to the beach because that was his favorite place to go. And, we just kind of hang out there and, just check out the water and just chill out for a little bit. So
Yeah.
or when it's football season, we root for the team that he loved just because that's who Daddy loved. So just like those little things that kind of keep him alive in our memories.
Yeah,
So,
I like that. I mean, you talk about that too, like I said in the book, just having those connections, making sure I like how you say it. I'm sure it's not exactly the wording, but like even in planning for death, don't forget to live in the moment. Like, I mean, like even though you're thinking about this and being prepared for it, because like you put in the book, it's inevitable. It's going to happen. We have to treasure these times. And I thought that was really powerful, just kind of thinking about it through those lens.
Yeah, absolutely. And I, for those people that are, kind of like, I just don't like to do this. I don't want to do it. I look at death planning as kind of like your last act of love for your family. Like you're taking a lot of the decision making and a lot of the stress out of a situation that's already difficult.
Right.
If you come up with all the answers, you give all the answers, like you answer all the questions that everyone could have. All they have to do is execute the plan. That's so much. It makes it just so much easier to deal with because you're already grieving. Like you already have to deal with processing the loss, and the less that I have to really think about and worry if I did what you would have wanted, the better. So it just lets the shift focus a little bit, or focus shifts a little bit to be able to really focus on the person and their life versus all these decisions that have to be made. And you're running ragged because you're trying to make sure you have all the decisions made right before you can actually grieve. So it's just tough. It's not fun. No one likes it, and that's why, right? There's nothing fun about this topic. And some people, like especially with death planning, right? They want to. Like some people just don't want to talk about it. Like they're like, oh, I'm not, I'm going to be around forever. You don't have to worry about that. But it's like, yeah, but you're not.
Right.
And I would rather you tell me what you want. It just makes it easier because if that way I don't have to guess. Right. I don't have to worry that I made the wrong decision. And I mean, honestly, thinking back to my husband, there's nothing that I really worry about with him. Like I feel like the decisions that we made were what he would have wanted. So I feel at peace about that. But death can bring out the crazy in a lot of families. Yeah, and especially
you're blessed to be in a positive relationship with your husband at the time. Like imagine, I'm sure
absolutely.
Families who are not. The drama that brings and the tension between different family members that are still living.
Absolutely.
About this situation. So
absolutely. Well, and that's absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and that's why family dynamics are so hard anyway. I mean, everybody's story is going to be a little different, and trying to make plans and what you might have said 10 years ago might not be how you feel 10 years, right now, and 10 years from now it might change again, or it might change into something else. And that's why it's so important to just kind of keep up with it, like write it down. I mean I remember telling my husband, because he would talk about stuff and I'd be like, I'm just going to write it down. I need to write it down, but it was just so random so haphazard. When things would kind of come up, there's like, okay, I'm just going to have to make a mental note because otherwise it's just not going to fly. Right. And so that's, or
you think like, oh, I'll get to it later, it'll be fine. Like, I don't need to worry about this now.
Well, it's so interesting to me because I've met a lot of people since publishing my book, and I tell them what my book's about, and they're like, oh, but
like, nice to meet you.
Wow, what a topic to cover. But it's funny though, because what I've found is that people who have experienced it, like usually it's with sometimes there's like they've personally gone through it, but some of them have experienced it with a parent. Okay. And so like they can see the book and like, wow, this is perfect timing. I need to get this in front of my mom. My dad died. And the one person, he was so nice, and he was talking about how his dad had passed away, and his dad was an engineer, and he had everything like figured out to the penny, like knew where everything was going to be, had it all sorted out. So it was, after he passed away, it was very smooth. Like they didn't really have any issues. And he says, I need to get my mom on board with this because she doesn't have the first clue. Like, she's, she doesn't know what she wants. And he's like, I don't know what she wants. And I want to make sure that I'm doing right by her. And he's like, I need to sit her down and have this conversation. And I said, yeah, you do. And it's a hard conversation. And, folks don't want to face their own mortality. I said that earlier. It's just, they don't want to believe that they're going to die. They don't want to imagine life. They don't want to imagine life without them.
Yes.
Thinking about their kids.
That is hard.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I would say definitely kids, like, thinking, like I said, I have a 5-year-old, and thinking, like, you put in the book, like, who is going to take care of him? Like, if something happens to both of us, or where that comes from. And I'm like, I don't want somebody else to raise my baby. But I need to be prepared for that. Just, God forbid something were to happen.
Yeah. Well, it's so interesting. Like, there's a segue, because it's not even, so I talk about death planning a lot. I mean, the whole thing's about death planning, but one of the things I talk about is about making sure that you have your plans in place. So a lot of this stuff can also come into play when you're talking about if something were to happen to you, like, and you're still alive, like if you're just incapacitated.
Okay. Right.
So let's just, if someone has a mental breakdown, has a physical medical situation, like where they have a stroke and they can't do anything, Alzheimer's or dementia patients, they wind up intubated, like think about COVID, when all those people wound up in the hospital unexpected. Right. Like a lot of them didn't have plans in place, didn't have their wishes outlined.
I didn't think of that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it happens all the time. And so I also think about my daughter. She's 17 right now. She turns 18 next month. At that point, she's legally an adult. If something happens to her and she doesn't have that stuff outlined, I can't do anything. So it's like making
so truly the
plans.
Sooner the better.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I like how you say, like, go back to it like once a year or something, make a plan. So like you said, if things change or beneficiaries change, you can update it. But it's better to have it than not.
Yeah, I had done a workshop last year, and I invited an attorney, a funeral planner, a life insurance agent, and a CPA to be speakers at this workshop. And the attorney was fabulous. I loved him. And he had shared a story with us about a man. He was a judge, and he had done his will, and he outlined, I mean, he went so far as to say who his 6 people were that he wanted to carry his casket. And the problem, I mean, it was great, fabulous that he had done this, except for he hadn't touched it in 30 years. So whenever he had passed away, the people that he had identified, 4 of the 6 were already dead. The other 2, one was in a wheelchair, and the other one was not physically able to do anything.
Oh my goodness!
So it just kind of stressed the importance of, you've done the work, but you still have to make sure that it's still current and up to date, or else it doesn't matter anymore. So, and it's even funnier. I talk, of course, being in this space and writing the book and sharing information. I was talking with my parents, and they were talking about how they need to redo their will. And I said, yeah, you definitely need to do your will. And they said, well, yeah, we definitely need to redo the will because you were 13 whenever we did it last. And you were going to go live with your aunt if something should happen to us. And I'm pretty sure she might not be so interested in that now that you're, 30 years later.
Yes. That's funny. I had the same conversation with my parents, and they were like, yeah, your grandma was going to take care of you. And my grandma's 98 now. So I was like, I don't think she's going to be taking care of me. Yeah, roles
might be slightly reversed.
Yeah, like my mom is taking care of her right now. So
Yeah. Well, and so I also talk about that. I talk about other family members. So I think about, like, like your mom taking care of her mom. One of my exes, his mom and dad had taken care of her mom. And I mean, so much to the point that, she had lived in their living room for like 3 years in a hospital bed. And they had taken care of her day in and day out. And so when I wrote it, I was thinking about them in mind, like if something would have happened to her, to the one that was the caregiver, what happens to the parent? What happens to the person that's being cared for? Because, making those plans. So thinking about your mom and your grandmother. If something happens to your mom, what happens to grandma?
It does happen. Yeah.
Yeah. And so this is it's a snowball domino effect, right?
It is.
That you really get thinking about these hard questions. And
well, there's so much to think about. So it does make sense to start earlier so you can, hit the different things as they come up or as you're thinking about them. I mean, I was even reading, at first I was like, wow, this is really detailed. Is this overly detailed? But even like when you were talking about like keeping things consistent for the kids or knowing about the household chores. So I was like, oh, well, okay, well, maybe if you have a service, you need to know this. But like you said, just even knowing like where do we keep the gas for the lawnmower or things like that, or grocery shopping. I thought that was interesting, but I mean, my husband does most of the grocery shopping in our family, and I went grocery shopping, and I did not know where to find stuff. Like, somebody came up to me and was like, do you need help? I was like, yes, I do. Right? But if I'm in that state of mourning somebody, a loss, right, I'm going to be even more lost if I don't have all these things in place. So it's sometimes, like, it does seem like overkill, but you're like, no, like, this would be so great to have lined up. Yeah. One thing that really shocked me, and if you could talk a little bit about that you shared, was the organ donation.
Yes.
So you said that like they called you the day that he passed, and again, you explained this in the book, like they have to, right, because they need the organs. Right. I did not even think about that.
Yeah, I honestly don't think that many people do. I don't think that many people put that connection together, and so for us, you can say that you want to be an organ donor on your driver's license,
right?
And so he did. It was kind of funny because for the longest time he didn't want to be, and then I don't know what changed, but we moved to Georgia, and all of a sudden he wanted to be an organ donor. I said, okay, you can, okay, whatever you want to do. And didn't really think anything about it. And then of course he died. It was a Sunday. And it was sometime in the early morning because I got up. It was probably about 4:30 when I got up and found him. And so he was dead somewhere in that 4 hour, like from midnight. It's in that 4 hour window. And they called me that afternoon, and it was the I can't remember the name of the company, but they wanted his eyes. They wanted to take his eyes. And I was talking with them, and I said, well, will you be able to use them? And they're like, well, we're not sure because of the time frame. And, it's because they were coming from Atlanta, and Atlanta is about 4.5 hours from here. And they couldn't verify, they couldn't be sure if they would be viable to be able to be used. And so ultimately I wound up turning them down. I said, if you were closer, if you could give me a little bit more reassurance, I would probably be a little bit more willing to do it. But if I don't want you to take his eyes, just in case, like that's not cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't think a lot of people realize that whenever your person dies, if they said they want to be an organ donor, you're probably going to be getting a phone call saying, we want to.
Which surprises me that they would find out so quickly.
Oh like,
how?
Well, I think
do you know what's the reporting?
Records.
Okay.
I think it's in the medical records. So whenever they, that's the only thing I can figure, or maybe through the hospital.
Okay.
Because it's for us, it's on your driver's license. So somehow there was that connection. Now, when he died, again, I don't even think I went full on into the story much further than I found him dead. But after, like, I called 911. They talked me through doing CPR. I already knew how to do CPR, so I was doing my own thing. And the ambulance company was like 5 minutes, literally like right around the corner. So they got there probably about 5 minutes. They did the AED. It wasn't working, so they covered him up with a sheet. And then I was out in the living room just sitting. And so you've got the firefighters, you've got the EMTs, you've got the paramedics, you've got the sheriff's department, and you've got all these deputies coming. I mean, there were probably a dozen people that were just like filtering through my house as I'm sitting there. And again, I'm like just in shock because I don't even know what's happening. And so like they want his ID. And so like they get his ID, they take his prescription medication, like they log everything. Like they interviewed me like 3 or 4 times. I'm answering the same questions over and over again. I think I think they were looking for consistency, like to see if there were, any questionable things. And then the coroner came. They called the coroner. Coroner came and he spoke with me and he said about an autopsy. I didn't even think about it. Like, they're like, and he says, well, did you want to have an autopsy done? I said, I don't know. And he says, well, he said, I don't suspect foul play. He said, I think this was natural. All the medication that was in the thing, it tells me that there was a lot going on. So, if the doctor's willing to sign off on the paperwork, we don't want to be intrusive if we don't have to be. I said, well, okay, that sounds great.
Right.
So, no autopsy. And, what I didn't know then, and I found out much later, and maybe other people already knew this, but with autopsies, of course, it takes longer. But it's also expensive.
Okay.
An autopsy isn't free. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it is not free, so it's expensive. And but they can. But the other thing is they aren't always able to figure out the exact cause of death. So like they'll kind of allude to it, what they think it is, but they don't know 100% for sure. So I didn't know that at the time. I said, look, I don't, if I agree, like, I didn't do anything to him. I think that whatever it was just natural causes, and that's what they wrote it up as. Now, interestingly, that was the coroner saying that. The doctor called the day that we were getting ready to bury him, and he says, I don't know why your husband died. I don't know why they want me to sign this paperwork. And I said, we're getting ready to put him in the ground. He's already been embalmed. He's already, he's dressed. He's in the casket. He's ready to go. So
yeah, you
can probably just go ahead and sign it because he ain't coming back. so yeah, that was quite an interesting conversation with him.
Yeah.
Apparently someone in the doctor's office has said that he would sign it. And that was apparently news to the doctor. But yeah, so so
even the chain of communication sometimes is not the best.
Oh no,
which I'm sure, like you said, the day of, that's not what you want to hear.
No,
at that moment.
No, and again, I think whenever they took his driver's license information, so that's the only way I can think of that they must have put something in the database that would have triggered the organ donations.
Yeah,
that's the only thing I can figure. So
yeah, that was so shocking reading that. I was like, I can't imagine. And then also too, even the person who has to be the person to call to ask you for that, I'm sure that's not. I'm assuming that's probably not the highlight of their day or a great job to have.
No, probably not. And of course, I didn't know that was a thing. I was not expecting that phone call at all. Mm-mm. So I probably wasn't the most pleasant person either. Being the recipient of that call, just kind of out of the blue. And, I tried to be as gracious as I could be, but it's if you can't promise me that they'll be used, you can't have them.
Right.
So, I think my husband would have been okay with that either way. Because, like I said, it took him so long to come to the point of even agreeing to be an organ donor. So, I think he would have agreed with that. But, yeah, that was definitely one of those things that you sign up for because you think you're doing a good thing and you just don't know.
Right. Yeah, like you said, it's not stuff people usually talk about. So
Right. Yeah, there were definitely a lot of lessons learned. A lot of things that you just don't know until you go through it. Honestly, it was so good that I was on the bank accounts, but if I wouldn't have been on the bank accounts, we would have had to have gone through a process. Death certificates, you have to buy them. You don't get them for free. So they'll usually, yeah. You don't get them for free. You have to buy them. So they'll suggest that you buy about 10 up front so that you have enough to give to your creditors to take care of his estate. That's all the nickel and you kind of feel like you're being nickel and dimed because it's okay. And funerals, my goodness, 10 to 15,000 for a funeral. But yeah, so
wow.
for the casket, for the burial, for the service, for embalming of the body.
Mm-hmm.
It is ridiculously expensive. And so
now you said Brian was in the military, so is that part free, or do you guys have to pay for the color guard to come out and things like that? Or
the color guard was free, as far as I know. I don't recall paying for that. I think that was part of, like, that's just one of the things that comes with the military.
To honor, yeah.
And you can either get a headstone, or you can get like a bronze plaque to go at the foot of the I don't know what the heck they call that thing, but that's what we got. We got the bronze plaque, so you get that for free. So you get your bronze plaque, you get the color guard, but that's it. And if they, he should have, but he didn't go to the VA, so I don't really know about the benefits and how that all works out as far as continuity. But yeah, it was there. Nothing free. Now, if it's a veteran and they want to be buried in a veteran cemetery, that's free. Like, they can be buried in a veteran cemetery for free.
Okay.
But depending on where you want them to be buried, there might be a cost for the plot and for the digging of the grave and the preparation of the grave and all that too. So, yeah. I mean, it's the cost. I mean, it's probably I'd say easily 15 grand.
Wow.
For a burial.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. And so, I don't know if you knew this, but there's actually burial insurance that people can buy.
Okay.
And that will pay for all of that stuff. There's some, I don't know if they have them in your area, but Dignity is a funeral home organization. Like they have a lot of Dignity Funeral Home Memorial Service, whatever the heck they call themselves. Okay. But they're nationwide. And so you can set up a plan with them. Like, you can order all your stuff. Like, you can pick out your casket. You can pick out everything. You do all the stuff. And they'll, figure out how much that cost is. And then you can pay it off. And then that's done. So whenever it's your time, then that's
already
one less
taken
thing.
care
Yep.
of. Okay.
It's all taken care of. All they have to do is execute it. So, I mean,
that's kind of nice.
It is nice. It's really nice. And, so interestingly, my grandmother had done something, not through Dignity. She did it through a private funeral home up north, and paid for her casket, paid for the plot, paid for everything, and got scammed. Like, this was a private funeral home, so she had done all the things that she thought she was supposed to do. They took her money and ran, so she recouped a little bit, probably a fraction of what she paid. And so I was actually talking to my mom about, maybe she should try it again. And she said, well, she's really, she's already done this once. She's
scarred by that. Yeah. That's horrible.
Yeah. I said, well, if you go through a company that's a little bit more known,
yes.
Like Dignity's one of them.
Yeah.
The chances of it falling through is not as good. Like, I think you'll be okay. But, because she's always worried about putting people out. You don't want to inconvenience anybody. Don't want to impose on anybody. And it's like, well, if that's how you feel, there are things that you can do to get things set up so that whenever it's your time, all they have to do is basically push play. Like, it's like autoplay. Like, everything's all figured out. Like, what you want, how you want it, where you want it, it's all done.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's death planning is. It's a hard topic, but it's so necessary. It's so, and I try to keep it light because it is such a heavy topic. Thinking about how your family will move on without you, and trying to be prepared for that. Yeah. Thinking about, I don't know. It is difficult, but one of those just necessary evils, I guess, if you have to classify it as something, just something that we all should try to do. I mean, you don't have to do anything, but then that burden falls.
You're making it harder, right?
Absolutely.
For your loved ones.
Absolutely. The burden falls on those that are left behind to make all the decisions. So,
through this whole process of what you've experienced, writing your book, talking to the people that you've met, like either in your grief group or people who've read your book, like, what do you feel like you've learned the most during this?
I think what I've learned the most from all of, like, from this with the book especially, is that I'm not alone. There are probably, if you want to put a percentage on it, I'd say probably 15 to 20% of people are prepared, kind of prepared, like have wills, trust, all that stuff. The rest aren't. Like, that's a staggering number. That, 80%, like, that's huge. That's such a huge number of people that don't have any plans. And I think it's just stressed how important this topic actually is, and how people, like, no one wants to talk about it. But it's interesting. If you go to the store, like, you go to the bookstore, you'll find books. Like, it's like the I'm Dead Now What series.
Okay.
And I don't know if you've seen them. Like, if you just
I haven't. Yeah.
And I mean, they've got funny little sayings like that. But it's, I'm dead now what? And so, like, it's basically like, here's the plan, here's all the stuff.
Okay.
But, they don't, like, they kind of stops there, right? It stops at, get all your documents in order, have your wills and trusts and insurance policies, and get your documents, organized and all that stuff. But it doesn't talk about the rest. And so I've been validated in really covering the rest of what a relationship is like, and trying to capture those areas that we don't think about until we need to, thinking about what happens with our kids, or with, other people that are in our homes that need care, or even like pets, or, like plants, or like, and like, I even cover that, because some people are like really special, like very, very, very critical about their plants, don't kill my plant.
Right.
Knowing where knowing how to do the grocery shopping, knowing how to start the lawnmower, knowing how to cook that meal that everyone loves, like all those things, like they don't go that far. So I'm validated in knowing that I've caught an area of
I really liked that.
Yeah, that people just don't think about until they have to again. And so, yeah, it's been a very interesting journey. Like, this last year has been very interesting, just talking to different people to see how what their reaction is to the book and the information that's in it.
Now, are you writing another book?
I actually want to write. I want to write a series of books, and so of course, this is pre-planning. This is death,
right?
But I also want to write books for the widowed. I want to write because, shocker, there's really nothing out there for people, like, whenever they're going through this, like their spouse dies, and like what to expect. What am I going to what's going to happen? And so I'm going to be writing those books. Like, I kind of vision it as 3 books. Like, it's going to be like kind of like the first year, like the fog. Like, you're in the fog, and what to expect, and do's and don'ts. And then the second book will be like coming out of the fog. Like, now the fog is cleared. Now you're starting to see the ugly reality for what it is, and here are things that you can expect. And then the last one is your new normal. And like really just that evolution of coming out of like your significant grieving, like you're coming up for air, and things are starting to normalize, and talking about dating, and talking about just moving on, and trying to continue with your life, because you're still here. Your spouse might not be here, but you're still here. You still have a mission to accomplish, whatever that is. And so that's my next one. Like, those 3 books are what's coming. So I'm slowly working on getting those drafted and trying to get those ready to go.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited for you. I think that's great. And like I said before, I love how it's like everything you've talked about are things you have actually been through. So you have that special insight on how it actually feels, and what, coming out of the fog, and dating now as well. So
yeah, it's it's so weird. It's so weird, and it's a good thing. Like, I'm sure it's algorithm. I'm sure it's all about the algorithm, but I'm starting to see more people being more vocal about their grief journeys. I see a lot. I don't know if you've ever heard of Crazy Busy Mama, Lori Conway. So she's been an influencer, and she does cooking. Like, that's been her cooking and religion and whatever. And her husband passed away. It's been over a year, maybe a year and a half or so. Okay. And she's really used her platform to really be very vulnerable about her journey and things that she's going through. And, you know, kind of what I was talking about earlier about being ostracized and people not understanding and being so critical. She's been just through it. I mean, I've watched it kind of playing out in the comments, and you know, people they don't know, you know, they don't understand, and really, it's one of those things where you won't understand it until you go through it yourself, right? But I've been seeing more influencers being more open about their journeys and what they're going through, and seeing life from the other side of things. Okay. And so that's actually prompted me to do another project. So I'm going to be, I mentioned to you earlier, I'm going to be doing a podcast of my own, and I think we'll call it The Flip Side. Okay. And so, like, I'm going to talk about the death planning, and then I'm going to talk the flip side of, you know, the widow journey, and what that looks like, and how these two things connect so closely, and, you know, what you wish, you know, talking with the widows, and what do you wish that you would have known, you know, from your spouse, like what what do you wish they told you, what do you. And so I'd actually asked that question to my to the widow groups that I was in, like, what is one thing that you wish that your spouse would have told you, or that you wish you would have known. And I actually talk about it in the book. There's always this random box of keys sitting around. You have to ask your husband about it. Like, there's like these random keys just sitting around, and what do they go to? So I talk about, you know, getting them organized, and, you know, getting one of those key organizer things that tells us what the keys are for. Right. You know, just like those little things. So that's kind of the next thing for me. I think I'm going to kind of get into that space and really kind of have those kind of conversations about just the pre and post of death. Yeah. Because no one wants to talk about it, so I might as well talk about it.
But we all experience it, right? Yeah, so you might as well. Yeah.
We do. You know, I kind of say it's kind of weird. It comes off sounding weird, but sometimes bear with me for a second, because it's like, you know, if you don't get to experience death, like if maybe you're the lucky one, and you go first. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's kind of like, we all experience in some way, like parents, siblings, grandparents, like family. But family death, friend death is so much different than spouse death. Even child death is different than spouse death, because your spouse is your partner. Your spouse is the one that you live with, that you do everything with, that, you know, like, this is the person that you've chosen to love. And when they leave, whenever they die, like, half of you is missing now. Right. And so you have to recreate yourself. And, you know, again, like, parents, your siblings, your children, like, all of those deaths are
different
hard.
Connection, right?
Absolutely. So that's why I say, like, you might be the lucky one, and that you don't have to go through the grief journey that others have, because it's very difficult. There are some people who have committed suicide because of it, because they couldn't deal with it. They couldn't deal with life without their partner. You know, some people just really, like, go into deep depressions over it. They just can't get themselves out of bed. They can't, you know, don't have a reason to live. Even, like, I still kind of linger on those pages a little bit, just to kind of see what people are saying. And, you know, I see, like, new widows getting on there and talking about how, you know, like, they've got children, but they don't, like, they just, like, I don't want to be here anymore. I'm done. Yeah. I don't, you know, and it's heartbreaking, because it's like, you know, being so far out, it's so much easier to, like, kind of see, like, you know, there is space, there is grace that's there for you. Like, you just have to work through it. You have to come through it. Right. And, you know, like, just acknowledging that it will eventually get better. I mean, better, again, that's probably not the best word, but it does, things kind of improve a little bit. Like, it won't ever be the same.
From your experience and the people you've talked to, what do you think is the difference for the people who can keep moving forward and the people who get stuck?
I think it's mentality. I think a lot of it's mentality. I know for myself, because I very easily could have gotten stuck, but my daughter was relying on me. Okay. And I had kind of adopted a mantra of failure is not an option. Like, it was just me and her, and we had to keep going. We had to push through whatever obstacles we had. So I do think that it's a lot of, like, your attitude towards things.
Yeah.
I think some people really just struggle with being able to see beyond certain situations. Like, sometimes, like, this is it. This is all they can see. And they can't,
right.
Like, they can't see the forest through the trees, right? this is it. This is all they can see. And I think for some people that's just so overwhelming that they just get so stuck there, and that's just it. They can't get any further. And I mean, people try to help them, try to give them encouragement, try
right.
to say, look, we know, we understand, we know. It's just you just gotta hang in there. And one of the things is minute by minute, second by second. Sometimes you just have to live life second by second. Yeah. And in the heat of it, like whenever it first happens, that's exactly what it is. Like you feel like you're in a fog, but you just feel like this, this immense, just crushing pain of like you're just completely broken. And so, like, you're piecing your heart back together, like just like if you can, it's very figurative, right? Like in your imagination, like you're piecing like all these little pieces of your heart back together. And eventually it comes back, but it's not, it's all like cracked, right? Like you got all these marks. So it's never going to be exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So, but it's, it is doable. You don't ever forget them. But the pain subsides as you kind of get numb to it, if that makes sense. Like you just kind of, like it's there, but it's not like always at the forefront of your mind because life continues. Life goes on and you just keep moving on. So that's hard. Not everyone can adopt that thought process.
Right.
But I think for those who have moved on is not,
let's move forward.
Yeah, I say moving on isn't exactly right, but moving forward I think would be fair. Continuing forward because that's the way we're going. You can't go back. We are going forward, whether
that's a good point.
Whether you want to or not, and that's once the fog clears, once it feels like you're standing still and everyone's racing around you and you're in the race, right? You're going with everyone else. You kind of just get wrapped up in your life again. But there are moments that that will bring you back, and you'll, again, special days, special places, just things like for me, certain songs will stop me. So it depends on the person and the relationship. I mean, you had mentioned it earlier. I'm very blessed that the relationship I had was a good one. Because there are a lot of people that are, have complicated grief because they were in the middle of divorce procedures or what seems to be a really common thing is their spouse passes away and then they find out that they were cheating on them.
Oh no!
So I mean, like all this,
I can't imagine dealing with that alone.
Oh yeah. So like the complicated grief that comes up, and like you feel so sad, and then like this happens, you find this information out, and then like you feel completely betrayed. You can't ask them.
Right.
So it's like,
so it's like, how do you grieve that person that you thought you knew, but now you're finding out there's somebody different? Like that's a whole nother layer. Wow.
Yeah, that's a really good candidate for therapy.
Yes.
And counseling. Because that's going to take a professional to help you through that. But I mean, it's very interesting some of the stories that people share of like just what they've experienced and some of it's really heartbreaking and some of it's heartwarming and you just kind of I like this community because we're all there for the same reason.
Yes.
We didn't all get there the same way. Some were, had a little bit longer. Some are really short. And, and then you've got the identity thing. Most of us were married. Some people weren't yet. Some were just engaged. Or like you hear about those ones that were engaged, preparing to get married, and then the groom dies, or the bride dies like a day or two, or the day of. We've seen those on the news where like they got married, and then I think there was like a golf cart accident or something. The golf cart flipped and killed killed the bride or something like that. It's like, so it happens. We hear about it. It's like sensationalized, and then it goes away with Facebook and social media. Just kind of, it's a blip and then it goes. So, I think that's probably one of the hardest things about being a widow is this person was our whole world, and they're gone, and everyone forgets them but you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So anniversaries, like no one cares about your anniversary except for you.
Mm-hmm.
The people that were in your wedding party, they might remember. They might say something. But for the most part, they don't care. The only ones that care are you and your spouse. And when they're gone, then it's just you.
It's just you.
And, I see so many people getting so upset because, well, they didn't remember my anniversary. It's like, it wasn't really theirs to remember. It was yours. Mm-hmm. That was something special you had with your spouse. And like, I know my parents' anniversary, but that's just because I know like the profound love that they have for each other and how they celebrate. But it's not everyone's like that. And so, but I mean, even for myself, like I have it on my calendar. Like, I would never forget it, but it's on my calendar just as like that little active memory. But I've stopped expecting people to remember these important dates because the only ones that are impacted are kind of like the day that he died. Like that date's forever engraved in my memory, and for his kids and for his family, like his parents and his siblings. But other than that, that's it. No one else. Maybe his close friends. Mm-hmm. But other than that, it's just a blip. It's just a social media post that just kind of goes by the wayside.
Right.
And so I think that's probably one of the most painful things about being a widow, that like just the fact that people forget. They go on about their lives and forget about this wonderful person who at one point meant so much to them and now doesn't. So it's, it's kind of a bittersweet thing, but
it is,
that's, as a widow, like that's our job now, is to keep their memory alive for for us, for the kids, for the family, and I put stuff out, like I'll, memories or whatever I'll post, and sometimes I'm like, oh, we're thinking about you, we're praying for you. It's like, okay, maybe. Or maybe because I just said it, like, you feel guilty because you didn't remember until just
something now. Yeah.
Right. So it's like, I get it. Like the intent, the sentiment, like I get it. But it's like, I didn't post it for that. I posted it to share because he was important.
Keeping him,
and I'm keeping his memory alive.
Yeah.
Yep. So it's funny. It's a funny world we live in.
Yeah. So thinking about here, we've heard your story. We talked a little bit about your book. What would be the big takeaway that you would want our listeners, especially those who haven't gone through what you're going through, what would be the big takeaway for them?
I think the big takeaway is to get prepared, to go ahead and start having those kind of conversations, start really thinking about what you want, what your wishes are, starting to have just the conversation. And it doesn't have to be anything super elaborate or formal or anything like that. It can be, well, I was thinking about, I saw an article about how people can, now be turned into mulch. If they have their bodies turned into mulch.
Yeah.
Like, that's an interesting thing. Like, I don't know if I really want that. I think and that, that can be your segue into,
right.
I was thinking about being cremated or, maybe being buried and being buried here or whatever. So, like just really, like, being intentional and having those conversations with your loved ones, like with your spouses, with your kids. If you're older and you have adult children, like talking through what your plans are, what your wishes are. Another thing that I would like for people to really start grabbing onto is making your plans for your voice today. And that means making sure you have a power of attorney established, doing your advance directive, which is either that or like the 5 wishes, if you've ever heard of that. It's not applicable in all states, so you have to check that out. But basically these are my medical wishes. This is how I want to be treated. So you hear people talking about how they don't want to be a vegetable.
Yeah.
Okay. Take me, like that kind of stuff. Like you would say that, like, this is the kind of care I want. If you have a do not resuscitate order, you would put it in there. Like all your wishes for how you want to be treated. Because I look at that as your voice when you can't use yours.
Right.
You're incapacitated. If you're on a ventilator, if you've had a stroke, if you are in a medical coma, whatever. This is your voice, and your power of attorney is the one that's acting on your behalf to make your wishes known. So getting those things done now, that way it's already established. You can go online. You can go on like legalzoom.com or something like that to get the forms. You can go to an attorney, an estate planning attorney, and have a small fee to get those papers drawn up. I will also stress that if you go through the steps of getting the papers drawn up, make sure that you get them signed and make sure that you get them distributed. So they don't do you any good if they're sitting in your fire safe at home and you need someone else to act on your behalf. So make sure that those people have your documents. But yeah, I mean, get started, and baby steps. You don't have to do it all in one day, but start having those conversations and start planning and just start moving that direction. Because once you're done with it, you're like,
yes. Off your shoulders. You have to think about it. Yes.
That's right. Like I'm good. I got it figured out. And then you'll go back and you'll just you'll go over it like a year or two later just to make sure it's still valid. And, as long as you didn't have a falling out with this family member and, that family member's still alive and whatever, like you can make minor updates as you need to. But, once it's done, like that's just one less thing you have to worry about. And then you can go and enjoy your life, and all the plans are made and all is well.
Yeah.
So.
Well, Lynn, I want to thank you for your time and for sharing your book, your story with us. And I have homework to do to start my planning. I really am going to sit down and go through these things because it is really important. And I'm excited to hear about all the things that you do moving forward, your book, and you'll definitely have to let me know when your podcast comes out, and we'll advertise that here too.
Awesome. Thank you.
I'll have a lot of different listeners, and they might need that as well. So I'm happy to support what you're doing. So keep me informed. Anything else you would like to share before we head off today?
I think I've done a really good job at filling up this hour and a half with you. I'm talking.
You've done an amazing. I still have so many more questions too, but I was like, okay, maybe we'll have to have you on again at another time because this has been really interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
the only other thing I'd say is that I have a website. It's www.authorlynnbstone.com. It's all together, mushed together. But on that website, it's not there yet. I'm finalizing it now, but there will be a link to a vulnerability assessment. So, and that's really for people that, it's for married couples to kind of assess how they are as far as their planning. They're looking at different stages of their, there's 7 different areas, that I look at, and you're kind of assessing where you are to determine your risk level. For vulnerability, for whether if something happens to you, will your partner be able to sustain? Will they be okay without you? So that's really what it's for. I'm still fleshing it out, so it'll be out there. I'm also on Facebook, author Lynn B. Stone. I also encourage anyone, if you're interested in, we've talked a lot about the book. It's on Amazon. It's also on Kindle. Til Death Do Us Part, a practical guide to preparing for the inevitable. And it's got a picture of a casket with a flower spray on top of it.
Yeah, I actually really like your cover. I like the background, the marbling looking. Very nice. very beautiful book.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. You know, I honestly was a little torn about the casket or not, but I think it does well for what it is. It's very practical, just like the guide.
Yes.
But I just thank you so much for having me on your show. Thank you to the listeners that are here. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions or have any, you know, I'm on social. Feel free to send me a message there on Facebook. Or on my website. Again, I have an email address through there. You can reach out to me, or of course reach out to Kalila, and I'm sure she can back in touch with me if we need to have round 2.
I think we will.
Hey, I'm fine with it. Just let me know when. But thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I had such a great time talking to Lynn. I really appreciated her honesty around such a heartbreaking topic. Even though she has done so much work to navigate the hurt and pain of losing her husband, you can still hear the tenderness in her voice when she speaks about certain memories. And yet, she chooses to share her story so others don't feel alone and to offer wisdom about preparing for the inevitable. It's been a few months since we recorded, and I have been slowly working through the things that Lynn discussed in our conversation and in her book. It has sparked some interesting and meaningful conversations with my husband, and it's helped me reorganize a few things in my life. I still have a lot more to do, but there's a real peace of mind knowing that the people I love won't have the added stress when my time comes. And speaking of having a lot to do, Lynn has been busy, y'all. We caught up this week and she shared with me all the things she's been doing these past few months. One of the things is she launched her podcast she talked to us about. It's called The Flip Side of Death, and it's now available on all major podcast platforms. Right now, she's sharing fundamental information, but she soon plans to interview experts on preparation and planning, as well as widows and widowers who have turned their tragedy into something meaningful for others. I recommend that you check it out. I have already listened to the first 3 episodes, and it is very good. You can also connect with Lynn on her website and social media. Everything will be linked in the show notes. And be sure to watch for updates on her Death Doesn't Wait workshop coming this June, 2026, featuring experts like an estate planning attorney, a life insurance agent, a funeral planner, and more. Well, that's a wrap on episode 12. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and find joy in every moment you are still here to love on the people closest to you and take time to show kindness to those you might not know quite as well. I'll meet you back here next time. See ya, bye.